What's up? My name is Johnny, and this is my Johnny. We are in the building, in the studio, right? And we're coming out with another one. We're gonna try to do a couple a day if we can. I used to get tired to do one, but I'm trying to do more. So just please. All right, y'all. So we gotta talk about it, man. Racism. People, a lot of people are starting to see racist things that are happening, speaking out, and that's something that I used to speak about a lot. Like a couple of summers ago, people thought that I was out of my mind. Like, what are you talking about? We're in 2026. But some of those people who were even racist back then, they have, like it's like almost like they hid their racism. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of stuff was still being taught in people homes and things like that. One thing that I pointed out was like with white women, people thought I was like, why are you asking? Because it's still the same thing. Like anytime I go by a white woman, she'll grab her purse. This is has something that has to be learned, and this is not like I'm just grabbing my purse just concerned. It's like an afraid grab my purse. So what that lets me know, what I put that connection to is you guys were taught this. Somebody taught y'all your life to we snatch purse, which is the most silliest thing that I've ever heard in my life. These people just live in fear. Like who will ever snatch a purse? That's just insane. It's insanity, right? But that's the way they feel, and that's the way they rate. But I have this. It's gonna blow your mind, y'all. Like everything that's here right now. They said that we invented, but like they make it impossible for us to invent anything. They're not giving us the tools that they gave our kids ghetto tools to build and create stuff. Imagine how much stuff we right there with China. But it's because of racism, they don't want to give us money. They don't want to give us the financing, the funding to do that stuff. And it's hurting America because other countries are passing us. All right, y'all. So here we're gonna watch this, and I want y'all to tell me what y'all think.
The racists and the white supremacists of today the same as those who fought to instill racism back then?
J.D. Vance on July 5th, 2025, invoked blood and soil as the basis of American identity. Joe Biden is an avatar for the baby boomers. They wouldn't get out of the way.
You write, in its 250th year, America say, is in deep trouble, and I cannot say with certainty that the country will survive. What do you mean by that?
We're going to have to deal with 7+ million people who have voted for Trump over 3 times. What we need to do, and you do this with Tateo, is tell the truth with love, lit by rage.
If you live in the US, you may be conflicted about celebrating its semi-quincentennial anniversary. That's 250 years. On the one hand, it's natural to want to celebrate the country you call home, as do I. But on the other, you don't want the center of those celebrations to be villainized dancing with Trump on stage. There's not a unique feeling when it comes to this country's big anniversaries. In fact, from its founding to this day, every half-century celebration in the US has shrouded its divisions, its problems, and its struggles. My next wrote a book about those anniversaries and the truth behind their jubilee, which he says brought him to the brink of despair. America USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversary, is the latest book from celebrated public intellectual Eddie Glaude Jr. The distinguished Princeton University professor's book takes readers on a self-examination of this country's history that will change their perception of its 250th anniversary. And he joins me now to talk more about that self-examination. Eddie, good to see you. Long time, my friend.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you, and congratulations on everything. Zateo is just an amazing news source. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you, that means a lot. And your book is an amazing resource as we hit this major anniversary. And interestingly, it looks at every 50-year anniversary in the US. It dives into the ways each of them contributed to instilling what you call Storybook America, and the attempt to reconcile this country as both a beacon of freedom, but also its origins as a white republic. What made you, Eddie, want to examine this contentious history in this very different way?
Well, Manny, because we're experiencing so much today. You know, there's something about the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the nation that has these haunting echoes. That there are these repetitions. That Donald Trump is unique in a lot of ways, but he's also, in so many ways, deeply familiar. And I was trying to really come to terms with how did we arrive here at this moment with all of the efforts around ICE and immigration, with the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act and the assault on black voters and DEI and the like. So I wanted to say, you know, what happens in this moment when the country tells itself a story about its founding and its contradictions are in full view? And so, you know, I wanted to tell a 250-year history of the country without writing a book of the size of We the People by Jill Lepore. So I thought it would be best to just simply telescope it by looking at these ritual moments during the milestone anniversaries. And it just so happens that at each one of these periods, the country is exorcised by the vexations of race, by its contradictions. And so you get this story of haunting and repetition to help us understand our own moment.
And a lot of people might assume that your book was triggered by Donald Trump's return to office. But it's about a lot more than the racist sentiment of one man or one administration. I mean, I assume you would be writing this book regardless of whether Trump was in office or if...
hierarchy that gives more value to being a white person than to being a different person of color. And part of what I want to do is to challenge this, because that's at the heart of the contradiction. The country imagines itself at once as this beacon of freedom, as you say, the creedal notion of America, but then it turns around and imagines itself as a white republic. That's all we have to do is look at immigration law from the first Naturalization Act to today. And remember what J.D. Vance said in July 5th, creed is not enough for social cohesion, for sovereignty. J.D. Vance on July 5th, 2025, invoked blood and soil as the basis of American identity. Yes. And that, to me, reveals the contradiction at the heart of the country.
J.D. Vance's wife is the daughter of Indian immigrants. I should always remind people. Trump's return to office has caused many in this country to, in your own words, retreat into the safety and comfort of older prejudices that have long simmered beneath our way of life and now boil over again. Should Donald Trump, Eddie, leave the White House in 2028, and I'm not sure he will, but let's say he does, where do these Trumpian forces, as you described them, where do they go? How do they get released? How do we get rid of them? I mean, this is way beyond one man.
This is the key question, Mehdi. I think it's important for us to understand that Donald Trump is an avatar for something much deeper. Yeah. You know, we tend to have these moments where we exceptionalize a particular figure and we think that's all we need to do is to get rid of that person and everything will be well. That's a Hollywood approach. Yes. To the country. And we've never really removed the tumor that causes so much of the illness of American life. So we're going to have to deal with 70+ million people who have voted for Donald Trump over 3 times. And we're going to have to deal with them by way of policy. And we're going to have to deal with them by way of, how can I put this, creating a society where racism has no quarter to breathe. That if you choose to live in that way, you are sanctioned. And this is not cancel culture. This is just simply reflecting the common good of the country. We're going to have to do something deliberate, right, to not just simply allow dog whistles to drive our politics, but actually change the center of moral gravity of the country if we're going to get out of this cycle.
You said something about, just a moment ago, about giving racism no quarter. It reminded me of a tweet I just saw today, which I responded to. Congressman Brandon Gill, one of the more far-right members of the Republican caucus. This is a quote from Gill that he tweeted out today. "For years, Democrats have intimidated and silenced Republicans by calling us racist. That won't work anymore." And I just wonder, we have a Republican Party now that is leaning into the racism. Yeah, racist, so what? What are you going to do about it? The word has no meaning. Where does that leave liberals and progressives if the decades spent quarantining, inoculating people, that's all gone.
Yeah, they're going to have to no longer triangulate. They're going to have to no longer think that all they have to do is to play to the middle.
Yep.
Try to avoid activating the racism of the right. Liberals are going to have to think of racial justice as something more than a philanthropic enterprise, something that they do for other people, as opposed to a value that animates our way of life. We're going to have to name the devil that has the country by the throat, Mehdi.
Well said.
And if we don't name the devil that has us by the throat, we cannot get to the other side of this crisis, because it's a toxic combination of greed, selfishness, and hatred that's fundamentally choking the life out of American democracy right now. And if we're not honest and finally grow the hell up, this democracy is in deep peril.
What you're saying now reminds me of something you